Hello, my friend. Welcome to Relax with Bedtime Stories. My name is Mushroom, and it is an honor to be your guide tonight. This is a space for you to let go, to rest. So, take a slow breath and exhale gently. Now, let's step through the door together into a story that will soothe your soul and lull you to sleep. Here we go. Tonight's tale isn't just a story. It's a soft place to land, a quiet forest path for your thoughts to wander, a gentle rhythm to rock your heart into stillness. As you listen, let your body become heavy, your thoughts grow quiet, and your breath steady and calm. You don't have to do anything except be here with me in this moment. Let the story carry you. Let it settle into the spaces that need peace, and know that you are safe. You are held. You are home. Now, close your eyes and let's begin. You step carefully onto the damp, mossy path, the world hushed except for the soft squish of your boots and the occasional drip of water from the trees. The forest around you breathes in silence. A mist coils low to the ground, and everything smells like pine needles, wet bark, and a hint of something old, like the forest remembers things. You tug your coat a little tighter as a breeze snakes through the trees. The canopy above is thick with leaves, but here and there, moonlight sneaks through, slipping between branches like silver threads. It's not completely dark, but not light either, just that in-between twilight that makes you wonder if you've wandered into a dream. You pause for a moment to admire the scene. Mushrooms sprout from a rotting log on your right, arranged in a perfect semicircle, like an audience watching your journey. They're plump, a little glossy, and somehow comically expressive, like they could be characters in an old stop-motion film. You wonder, briefly, if fungi have opinions. Probably not, but if they did, they might be judging your choice of socks. A fat raindrop plunks onto your forehead, then another on your nose. The sky grumbles in the distance, a low, sleepy growl. A storm is coming, but instead of rushing, you keep moving forward. The trail is lined with overgrown roots, puddles, and tiny wild flowers, still stubbornly blooming. You dodge a puddle and fail spectacularly, one foot going straight in with a satisfying squelch. Classic, you mutter, amused at yourself. It's part of the charm, really. Nothing says cozy night incoming like damp socks and a mild sense of disorientation. There's a strange beauty in getting slightly lost, especially in a place like this. The forest feels old, not just in the way trees get old, but ancient in a whispering way, like it watched woolly mammoths stomp by and just kept growing. You keep walking, guided by instinct more than logic. The path forks and then reforks, but you always seem to know which way to go. There's a pull somewhere in your chest, like a gentle thread tugging you toward something warm. And finally, just as the rain starts to fall more steadily, you see it. Tucked beneath a massive oak tree, surrounded by ferns and bathed in soft yellow light, sits your tiny caravan. It's exactly as you remember it from, well, maybe a dream or a picture once tucked in the back of your mind. Painted a gentle shade of teal with cream-colored trim and a little brass lantern flickering beside the door, it looks like something out of an old storybook. A wooden sign nailed to the tree nearby reads simply, "Not all who wander are lost." Because of course it does. You let out a small laugh. Tolkien quotes and rain, nature's original aesthetic combo. The door to the caravan creaks gently in the breeze, and you step closer, your hands already tingling at the thought of warmth inside. You glance up. Raindrops are beginning to race each other down your hood, and the air has that cold electric tension of a storm that means business. You turn the knob and step inside, boots thudding softly on the wooden floor. It smells like cedar and cinnamon, and the faintest whiff of toffee. Not bad for a place with no modern plumbing. You hang your coat on a hook, brush some dampness from your shoulders, and take a good look around. The inside is small but charming. Every surface tells a story. Quilts with mismatched stitching, teacups that don't match but all have gold rims, books stacked in gravity-defying towers, and a tiny wood-burning stove already glowing. You swear one of the teacups is shaped like an owl, and you make a mental note to examine it later, when your fingers aren't wrinkled from the rain. A small historical print on the wall catches your eye. A 1910 postcard of a woman in a ruffled dress stepping into a gypsy wagon. You pause. There's something comforting about knowing people have been drawn to cozy caravans for over a century. Orians often debate whether these mobile homes began primarily as traveling show stages or practical shelters. But let's be honest, both are excellent reasons. Just as you're considering whether you'd have made a good fortune teller in 1910, thunder rolls overhead like a lazy drumbeat. You're glad to be inside now. The walls of the caravan are thin, and yet, somehow, they hold the storm at a perfect distance. Loud enough to lull, soft enough not to disturb. You peek out the tiny round window, watching droplets chase each other in rivulets down the glass. The rain has fully arrived, and it's here to stay for a while, which is perfect, because tonight there's nowhere you need to be. No calendar reminders, no emails, no dramatic plot twists, unless you count the mushroom jury in the woods. Just you, your cozy little space, and the sound of rain tapping gently overhead like a lullaby from the sky. You kick off your wet boots and pad barefoot across the rug, a soft, worn thing that feels like walking on moss. There's a pair of wool socks rolled up by the bed, and next to them, a handwritten note you don't remember writing that says, "Dry socks are life. you smile. Past you was wise. Sliding into the warm socks, you let out a little sigh of contentment, the kind only possible when you've truly escaped modern chaos. You flop down onto the daybed under the window, your head landing on a pillow that smells faintly of lavender and old books. The caravan creaks gently in the wind. Outside, the storm begins to dance. You close your eyes for just a moment. You can still hear the forest outside, its branches rustling like old parchment, and somewhere in the back of your mind, you remember reading that the ancient Celts believed trees had spirits, that each tree held a kind of personality, a role in the forest community. Your eyelids flutter open again, thoughts drifting in time with the storm. The Celts also believed that oak trees could offer protection from lightning, which, can them care, feels oddly relevant right now. The rain shifts into a steadier rhythm, the kind you can match your breath to. You inhale as it gathers, exhale as it falls, like the forest is breathing with you. Outside, the last flicker of twilight disappears, leaving only shadows, rain, and the warm glow spilling from your caravan. You stretch, bones popping in small, satisfying ways, and let yourself melt deeper into the daybed cushions. There's no rush, no destination, just the slow unfolding of a rainy night, a creaky caravan, and a story still being written. And that story has only just begun. The moment you rise from the daybed, your feet still in their thick socks, the floor of the caravan gives a soft, familiar creak beneath you. Outside, the rain continues its soothing applause, tapping a steady rhythm on the tin roof. You can hear it especially well in the kitchen nook. If you can call a stove, 2 cupboards, and a single battered kettle a kitchen, you shuffle toward it anyway, wrapped in the moment like you're moving through a memory, but slightly better lit. The kettle sits waiting on the cast iron stove, steam whispering out from its spout like it's been keeping time with the storm. The water inside hums gently. You pour it into a chipped mug that says, Van Gogh probably needed tea too, which feels both hilarious and correct, and toss in a sleepy time blend from one of the little jars lined on the shelf. Lemon balm, chamomile, a whisper of lavender. The mug warms your hands instantly. You cradle it like a secret and drift toward the window again, taking small sips as steam curls up your nose and fills your lungs with quiet. The caravan's window is fogging now, but through it you catch glimpses. Slick tree trunks gleaming in the rain, puddles swirling with ripples, and, wait, a raccoon dragging something unidentifiable across the path. You raise your mug and give it a solemn nod of approval. Good luck with whatever that is. You settle into the nook beneath the round window, lined with a patchwork of cushions, an old army blanket, and a few forgotten paperbacks with dog-eared pages. One of them is called Strange Legends of the British Isles, and the cover features a very alarmed-looking sheep. You make a mental note to revisit that gem later. The mug is nearly empty now, and the warmth has begun to work its magic. Your shoulders relax, your breathing slows, and even the last fragments of busy thoughts begin to drip away, like the rain slipping off the caravan's roof. That's the thing about rain. It erases urgency. No one's in a rush when it's pouring outside. Ancient civilizations often saw storms as cleansing, even sacred. In Mesopotamian myths, the rain was considered a gift from the sky god Enlil, nourishing the land and purifying sins. You wonder if he'd appreciate your tea. Maybe. He might ask why you didn't offer coffee, but we all have our flaws. The light inside the caravan grows dimmer as the storm thickens. The candle flames flicker a little more fiercely now, casting gold shadows that waver along the walls. You get up and light another, one in an old jam jar that smells faintly of pine and vanilla. The label reads Winter Cabin in handwritten cursive. Close enough, you murmur, placing it on the shelf near your pillow pile. A gust of wind pushes against the caravan, making it groan slightly. You press your palm against the wooden wall. It's sturdy. It may creak, but it holds. There's something reassuring about that. The idea that this tiny box on wheels is enough to keep the world out and the gentle world in. You start exploring the space a little more deeply. There's a drawer beneath the bed, and inside it, you find the kind of treasure that makes you laugh quietly. You grin. Whoever lived in this caravan before you had a personality, and possibly access to way too much instant coffee. You fold the map and slide it into your back pocket just in case. Thunder booms again, a little closer this time, the kind that makes you pause mid-step and say, "Whoa," to no one in particular. But then comes the rain, harder now, like marbles spilling across the roof, soothing and insistent. You light one last candle near the head of the bed, then pull the curtain closed across the tiny window. It's not blackout, just soft linen, but it adds a sense of separation from the outside, like drawing the veil between world and womb. You climb into the bed fully now, sliding under layers of mismatched quilts that seem to have lived several lives. One has a patch in the shape of a cloud. Another bears the faded image of an astronaut waving because, of course, it does. You can't help but think about how caravans have always appealed to wanderers. Whether they traveled forests or stars, it's all the same yearning. Go far, feel safe. Above you, the ceiling bears traces of previous owners' whims. Someone has painted little stars here and there, some clustered in the shape of constellations, others just whimsically scattered. You recognize Orion, but you're pretty sure that's also a space cat next to him. The kettle whistles again faintly, not because it's on, just memory. the way certain homes hum with leftover lives. The air is warm now, thick with the scent of old wood, pine wax, and candle smoke. You're not sleepy, exactly, but you feel quiet, settled, like your whole nervous system has taken off its shoes. You stretch your toes beneath the quilt and find a hot water bottle you don't remember placing there. It's covered in a knitted cover shaped like a hedgehog. You pat it fondly. Thanks, little guy. Outside, the rain continues its relentless lullaby, and somewhere between sips of tea, flickering candlelight, and the sound of water on metal, your mind begins to wander again. You think about the Romani caravans of 19th century England, painted in brilliant greens, reds, and golds, adorned with carved wood and lace curtains. They weren't just homes. They were expressions of art, rebellion, and mobility. Historians still argue whether these were primarily family-centered or performance-centered spaces, but one thing's certain: they were cherished. You can see why. It's not the size, it's the feeling. Being contained, but not trapped. Held, but not hemmed in. And maybe, just maybe, it's the reminder that comfort doesn't always come from control. Sometimes it comes from surrendering to the moment, to the rain, to the creak of old wood and the glow of candlelight, to being exactly where you are, doing absolutely nothing productive. You turn onto your side, watching the last of your candle's flame flicker. Somewhere in the distance, an owl calls, or a tree squeaks, hard to tell in a forest. One of those sounds that's either enchanting or a sign that a raccoon is doing taxes outside. You yawn, and the caravan yawns with you. Wood stretches, rain sighs. The night settles deeper. You pull the quilt up to your chin and close your eyes. The storm outside may rage. The wind may howl. But in here, you're safe. You're warm. And the caravan rocks you gently, like a cradle, remembering lullabies. Somewhere between the sigh of wind through the trees and the rhythmic patter of raindrops on the caravan roof, you awaken, not fully, but in that dreamy, halfway place. You're still tucked deep under layers of quilts, still warm from the hedgehog hot water bottle curled near your knees. But your eyes flutter open for just a moment, taking in the gentle shadows dancing across the wooden ceiling. The candles have burned low, and the glow inside the caravan is faint now, like fireflies behind fogged glass. Outside, the rain has softened, but it hasn't stopped. It just hums now, like a lullaby in a different key. You stretch with the same sleepy elegance as a cat who's decided the world can wait. Your fingers brush the patchwork quilt, each square a different story, one made from a floral apron, another from an old band t-shirt, and one that suspiciously resembles a flannel shirt your uncle might have worn in 1978. You run your fingers across the seams, imagining it he hands that stitched it all together. You rise slowly, wrapping one of the thicker blankets around your shoulders like a cloak. You pad barefoot across the creaky floor, collecting your mug from earlier, and light a fresh candle on the countertop. Its scent is subtle, cardamom and pine, and you wonder for a second if it's possible to feel nostalgic for a place you've never really lived in. You fill the kettle again, letting it heat slowly on the stove. Outside the fogged window, raindrops thread down the glass in long, lazy rivers. There's something hypnotic about watching water follow its path, unbothered, graceful, certain. While you wait for the water to boil, you reach for a little wooden box tucked behind the teacups. It rattles slightly as you open it, revealing a miniature collection of trinkets, polished stones, pressed leaves, a pair of dice with only 3s and 7s, and a tiny folded paper star. At the very bottom lies a small brass key. You hold it up to the candlelight, watching it gleam. No tag, no lock nearby. A mystery, but not one that demands solving tonight. You place it on the shelf beside the Space Cat constellation, content to let some questions remain questions. The kettle begins its gentle hiss, and you pour a new cup, this time peppermint, sharp and refreshing. The steam curls upward, mingling with the faint scent of old books and something sweet you can't quite place. You sit down at the table by the window, pulling your blanket tighter. There's a journal on the table, leather-bound, slightly weathered, with pages full of ink swirls and crooked handwriting. Some entries are legible. Some are little more than doodles and fragments. You flip through slowly, smiling. This caravan clearly has a long memory. In the back of the journal, you find a folded recipe card titled Rainy Night Rituals. It reads like a poem. You laugh softly. The simplicity of it feels profound and accurate. You hum a tune, one you make up as you go, aimless and meandering, and it fills the little space like a song the walls already knew. You glance out the window again. The rain reflects the candlelight now, tiny gold dots on a dark canvas. You sip your tea and let your eyes drift from shadow to shimmer. Eventually, you get up again, just to move, to feel the floor beneath your feet, to trace your hand along the curved wall of the caravan. You pause near the little shelf by the back door, where another object catches your eye, a snow globe. But inside it isn't snow. It's tiny golden leaves. They swirl gently as you tilt it. Inside is a miniature scene of a caravan, much like your own, under a tree with twisted branches. A little figure sits outside the door, wrapped in a blanket, watching the rain. You raise your eyebrows. Okay, well, that's not unsettling at all. You place it back carefully, resisting the urge to check whether the figure moves when you blink. Best not to know. Some mysteries are better left on the shelf with the brass key. You settle back into the daybed, which now feels even warmer than before. Your body sinks into it like it remembers the exact shape of your rest. You pull the blankets back up and nestle deeper, your hands still warm from the mug, and just as your eyes begin to flutter shut again, you remember something odd you read earlier, that Napoleon Bonaparte was once terrified of cats. Legitimately. Historians still argue whether it was a true phobia or exaggerated myth, but either way, the image of the French emperor fleeing a tabby is oddly comforting. You chuckle softly, another sip of peppermint, another sigh. The rain shifts tempo again, no longer playful, now steady and grounding. A heartbeat, a background. You lie still and listen, your ears catching every layer, the splatter on the roof, the tap on the windowsill, the occasional drip, drip from the gutter above the door. The sound of rain on tin has been part of human life for centuries. Even ancient Japanese poetry revered it, with the Encept of Yugen, describing the feeling of Yugen, the subtle mystery that comes from watching or hearing rain while knowing you are warm and dry inside. It's a kind of elegant melancholy, sweet and quiet. You reach over and open the little curtain beside your bed, just a crack, just enough to see the tree outside sway slightly in the wind. Raindrops run down its bark like tears, but it's not sad, just alive, just being. Back inside, the shadows from the candlelight stretch like cats across the ceiling. You trace one with your finger, letting your mind drift. You think about how cozy isn't just a setting, it's a state of being, an acceptance that nothing needs to change right now. You let that thought settle in your chest, and slowly, without meaning to, you begin to nod off again. The caravan rocks ever so slightly as a breeze stirs the woods. You're still holding the edge of your blanket, still watching the curtain sway, still halfway between here and somewhere else. The tea mug sits empty on the town table. The snow globe rests quiet on its shelf. The key glints once more, then fades back into shadow. Outside, the rain continues, constant and kind. And inside, you're not thinking anymore. You're feeling. And what you feel is home. You drift, not entirely asleep, but nestled in that peculiar in-between where time forgets to tick. Rain taps gently at the roof like fingers on an old drum, steady and soothing. The air has cooled slightly, but under the weight of the patchwork quilts, you remain wrapped in a cocoon of warmth. A tiny creak breaks the silence, the kind only caravans make. Not startling, just familiar, like an old house settling its bones. You open your eyes slowly and find the room unchanged. Still candlelit, still golden, still yours. Lying still, you listen more closely to the night. Beyond the rain, you begin to hear subtleties you hadn't noticed before. The faint rustle of leaves, a far-off owl calling once, twice, and just beyond the corner of your awareness, a soft, low hum, almost like music. You close your eyes again, letting the sound wash over you. Could be the wind slipping between trees, could be your own breath echoing back from the walls. Either way, it has arch, it has soul. You remember a phrase you once read, that the forest speaks in tones older than language. You don't know where it came from. Maybe you imagined it. Maybe it was carved into a bench in some mossy glade. Either way, it feels true now. You roll onto your back and stare at the ceiling, where those whimsical stars painted long ago still watch over you. Orion remains, his belt a little crooked. The space cat is still smug, but now they feel closer, less like decorations and more like old companions. You begin to whisper their names, just for fun. Your Sir, Pause-a-lot, and your Captain, Glitterbeard. You yawn mid-naming. The caravan doesn't judge. With a gentle stretch, you sit up and reach for your mug again, still empty. But your fingers curl around it anyway, remembering its warmth. You place it back down, then rise from the bed and cross to the small cupboard beneath the stove. Inside, more cozy magic, a small tin labeled emergency cookies. The tin creaks as you open it. Piden the timen sie nemab punaltigen, the tujab. Believe when in sweet up at your own caravan roof and whisper, "Thanks for not leaking." It doesn't respond, but you sense mutual respect. Settling back into the blankets, you lie on your stomach this time, chin resting on your folded arms. Your mind drifts in a lazy spiral, circling around quiet things. The rain seems to grow louder, then softer again, like waves rolling in and out, sinking to the rhythm of your thoughts. And soon your thoughts begin to wander beyond the caravan, to memories not quite your own, perhaps dreams you've dreamt before, or maybe pieces of stories caught on the breeze. You picture yourself standing in a glade somewhere not far from here, under a night sky so clear you could see the edge of time. The trees are taller than you remember, the stars feel close enough to touch, and the air smells like cedar and honey. You don't speak, there's no one to speak to, but you feel seen, as though the forest has taken note of your presence and gently approved. You stir slightly, pulling the fire up over your shoulders. The owl calls again, closer now, or maybe your ears are more attuned. You imagine it perched on the roof, just above your head, feathers ruffling in the rain, staring down with eyes like polished amber. Owls have long been seen as symbols of wisdom, but also of mystery. In ancient Greek mythology, the owl was sacred to Athena, the goddess of wisdom. Scholars debate whether this connection was symbolic, literal, or simply convenient artistic branding. You like to think Athena would have approved of your caravan, especially with the owl mug and all. Thunder murmurs far off again, low and tired. Not a threat, just an old friend reminding you it's still there. You respond by shifting onto your side and sighing softly, your breath mingling with the hush of rain on canvas and wood. At some point, you reach under the pillow and find an old book, one of those forgotten paperbacks from earlier. You flip through, letting pages flutter until they fall open to a story about a traveler who lived for a year in a tree. Not metaphorically, literally. A hollowed-out oak, complete with moss carpet and raccoon neighbors. You smile and imagine what it would be like, waking up in a tree trunk, sipping tea from bark cups, letting birds perch on your shoulders like some kind of woodland royalty. You could do that, or at least survive one weekend before panicking about Wi-Fi. Your thumb brushes a phrase in the book. To be still is to listen. To listen is to belong. You close it gently and place it beside you. The caravan creaks again, only slightly, as though it, too, heard the words and agreed. You wrap your arms around a soft pillow and close your eyes once more. The storm continues, but now it sounds far away again, as if the night has curled itself around you in protection. You think of the stars above the clouds, always shining, always waiting. You think of all the people asleep in their own caravans or cottages or tree hollows across the world. Of Hosh, we all want the same thing really: warmth, safety, stillness. And as the caravan rocks ever so gently, barely noticeable but deeply felt, you let yourself fully surrender to the moment. The rain has become your lullaby, the candlelight your companion, and the caravan your cradle. There is nothing more you need tonight. You have tea in your belly, a cookie in your memory, and a space cat watching over you from the ceiling. You smile, still half asleep, as your breath slows and the world fades into hush. The night deepens as if it's folding itself gently around your little caravan like a blanket pulled up to the chin. Outside, the forest is soaked in silence and silver. The rain has settled into its softest version now, a hush that barely rustles the ferns, barely kisses the roof. But it's still there, like background music you don't notice until you realize how empty the silence would be without it. You lie still under the weight of all those layered quilts. You don't want to move, not out of sleepiness exactly, but because your body has found a perfect position. Your shoulder cradled just right by the pillow, one foot sticking out for temperature regulation, your cheek pressed into something that still smells faintly of lavender and vanilla. You open your eyes, just a sliver, and take in the faint flicker of the last candle, still burning, stubborn and loyal. Shadows crawl up the curved walls like slow dancers. You watch them for a moment, listening to the soft creak of the caravan's wooden joints. A slow thought floats through your mind, some old legend that the Romani people believed each wagon, each vardo, held a spirit of its own. Not a ghost, but something gentler, a quiet guardian, a companion that traveled with you, protected you, remembered your footsteps. You wonder what your caravan remembers. Maybe it recalls laughter from the last person who stayed, a song hummed under their breath, the scent of stew cooked on the tiny stove, or the time they spilled honey on the journal and cursed softly, but left it there anyway. Maybe it remembers you already. Your gaze drifts to the ceiling again, where those painted stars keep watch. You realize now that some of them are tiny hearts. One has initials, J+A, scratched faintly in white paint. You smile at the thought of two people lying exactly where you are now, decades ago, whispering stories into the storm. You shift slightly and reach toward the shelf by your bed. The brass key is still there, gleaming faintly in the low light. You pick it up, feeling its weight in your palm. Still no lock in sight. But maybe that's the point. Not every key needs a door. Some just remind you that you once had the curiosity to wonder. You set it back beside the candle. The rain hushes a little more. You didn't think it could get softer, but somehow it does. Like the sky is tucking you in, careful not to wake you too soon. You start to notice the smaller things now. The way the flame of the candle sways each time your breath stirs the air. The scratch of linen against your ankle. The distant rustle of something scurrying in the underbrush, probably a fox or the world's tiniest burglar. You close your eyes and think about the forest beyond the walls, how it's lived through millennia of storms, how it's grown and healed and broken and rebuilt without ever needing an audience. It just is, just like you right now. In this moment, you are not a to-do list, not a phone call missed, and a project waiting. You are simply here, warm, held, breathing. A flash of lightning glimmers faintly behind the curtain, not bright enough to alarm, just enough to give a glimpse of the world beyond. You picture the wet leaves glistening like green-stained glass, the mushrooms now plumper than when you passed them, even the trail itself, washed clean and waiting. You smile. You'll find your way back in the morning, or maybe the trail will find you. You roll over once more and feel the quilts shift with you, like old friends adjusting to make room. You feel the edge of the journal beneath the pillow again. You don't open it this time. Instead, you whisper into the darkness, barely audible. Thank you. For the quiet, for the stillness, for the rain. The candle flickers once, twice, then goes out. Not with a sputter, but with grace. The kind of grace that says, "You're ready now." The caravan sighs with the wind. The rain becomes rhythm, and your breath now slow and even, joins the lullaby. So now, as the night wraps itself fully around you, there's nothing more to do. No more stories to follow, no more curiosities to explore. Only rest. Let your body sink deeper into the warm bed, feeling the last bits of tension drift out through your fingertips, your toes, the space behind your eyes. Let it all melt like honey into warm tea. Every muscle softens, every thought floats away. The storm has quieted. The caravan no longer creaks but cradles. Outside, the forest breathes in the dark, steady and calm. And inside, you're safe, completely, deeply safe. You don't have to chase sleep. It's already here, in the way your breath has slowed, in the way your body feels heavier, in the silence between heartbeats. If your mind wanders, let it, like a boat drifting on a quiet lake. No direction, no rush, just the soft swaying of thought. Maybe you'll dream of the mossy trail, or of tea that never cools, or of stars hidden behind clouds, waiting for morning, or maybe find him. Going into a sleeper, there's nothing to doing it. The night will keep watch.